I came back a day early and found strangers' suitcases in my own home, while my HOA neighbor called 911 on me as an intruder. Now hear the twist that turned this drama inside out, and decide for yourself what justice should look like. I turned into the cul-de-sac as twilight slid between the pines, the kind of blue that makes everything look colder than it is. My cabin sat where the asphalt gave up and the gravel began, a cedar-sided box with a porch light on a motion sensor. The HOA sign at the entrance, Aspen Ridge, quiet hours 9 p.m., 7 a.m., no short-term rentals, still had last winter's cracks in it. I hadn't planned to be here tonight. A 3-day work trip had shrunk by one when the client signed early. I drove straight from the airport, craving my own sheets and the smell of resin from the porch. Halfway up the drive, my phone buzzed. Ring motion alert. A thumbnail bloomed on the screen, 2 people hauling wheeled suitcases up my steps. The timestamp was 20 minutes ago. They didn't look like delivery drivers. I eased the car into park and let the engine tick down. When the porch light flared, the cabin's front door opened. A woman laughed, bright and careless. A man's voice answered from inside. I killed my headlights. For a full breath, I sat with my hands on the wheel and the old fear rising. Had someone broken in? Then the practical part of my brain took over. The smart lock recorded every entry. The HOA had a spare key, supposedly for emergencies, kept in a lockbox at the pool house. I'd asked how many people had access to it. The compliance chair had smiled and said, "Only the board, and only when absolutely necessary." My phone buzzed again, and this time, the caller ID lit up with a name I'd learned to dread. Kara, HOA, in neighborhood folklore. She was a kind of force of nature. The person who measured ornament heights and counted how many cars your visiting aunt had parked along the curb. Kara Whitmore, board secretary, compliance committee chair, the one who taped violation notices to your door with the precision of a level. I let it go to voicemail. I opened the car door quietly and stepped into the hush of the cul-de-sac. Across the way, porch lights glowed like tiny beacons. Somewhere, the steady thump of a dryer. From my porch, laughter again. I climbed the steps and put my hand on the knob. It turned. The entryway smelled like cheap floral detergent and something citrusy. Suitcases leaned against the bench where I kept my boots. A woman in yoga pants jumped when she saw me. The man beside her, in a tech company hoodie, raised both palms. Hey, he said, eyes scanning my face to map it against a mental list of potential outcomes. We're, checking in? This is my house, I said, calm because furious would be useless. Who gave you the code? The listing manager, the woman said, a syllable late. We booked through, it was an Airbnb, private site. Aspen Wellness Weekends? I just stared at them. The woman fumbled out her phone and flipped the screen toward me. A slick landing page filled the glow, all stock photos and warm copy. Unplug at a curated mountain cabin retreat. Strictly vetted guests. No party culture. In the footer, managed by AR Community Services. My stomach dropped at the initials. Aspen Ridge, HOA. The walkway boards creaked. I turned to see Kara barreling up the steps, the porch light finding the hard angles in her face. Phone in hand, laminated clipboard under her arm. She took one look at me and then at the couple and went red. "You can't be here," she said, stabbing a finger at me as if the syllables themselves could push me backwards. "This cabin is under inspection. I'm calling the sheriff." "You're calling the sheriff on the owner?" I asked. She thumbed 911 without breaking eye contact. "There's a man here," she told the operator when the call picked up. "He's aggressive and refusing to leave. Possible break-in. Address is—" "Put it on speaker," I said. She didn't. "Yes, I'm HOA compliance," she added, louder, for my benefit or for the couple's. "We've had issues with unauthorized occupancy." "Unauthorized occupancy?" The words came out flat. "Kara, did you give them the key code?" She ended the call and squared her shoulders. "I can't discuss ongoing investigations." "Into what? My own front door?" Down the hill, a wash of red and blue rolled through the trees. The couple went small, shrinking toward their suitcases as if wishing them into invisibility. I stepped out onto the porch and raised both hands so the deputies would see open palms and not a problem. 2 officers got out slowly, scanning the scene the way people do when they don't know what they're walking into. The older one looked like he'd seen every version of this cul-de-sac dispute. The younger one's jaw worked like he was grinding a thought down to size. "Evening," the older deputy said. "Who's the caller?" Kara stepped forward, composure settling over her like a mask. "I am," Kara Whitmore, secretary of the Aspen Ridge Board. This man is attempting to enter this cabin during an inspection. We have guests booked for a community event. Guests, I said, because the word didn't fit in my mouth. In a community with a no short-term rentals rule. There are exceptions for board-sponsored programming, Kara said quickly. This owner has been non-compliant. I'm the owner, I said to the deputies and held out my license. Mailing address matches. If you want more, I can show you the purchase documents in the file drawer by the window. And the Ring camera that recorded these two unlocking my door with a code I didn't give them. The older deputy's eyes flicked to Kara. Ma'am, we have authority to enter properties when safety is at stake, Kara said. We've had reports of bears drawn by improperly secured trash. We discovered an unoccupied dwelling, which increases risk. We are permitted to arrange welfare checks, including posting a listing and letting people drag suitcases inside. I held up my phone. I got an alert 20 minutes ago. They used a code that was only supposed to be on my phone. The younger deputy shifted his weight. Let's slow down. Sir, step over there with me. Ma'am, you too. And the two of you, he nodded to the couple, hang tight for a minute. On the gravel, I breathed pine and thought about keys, codes, and how easily authority turns into something else when nobody checks the books. Do you have video? The older deputy asked. I opened the app. The timeline was a neat grid of clips, the couple approaching the door, a close-up of the keypad, the blink-blink of the green check. I scrubbed back a week, more suitcases. Different faces, every Friday, like clockwork. The deputy watched with his mouth a flat line. How long has this been going on? I just found out, I said, hearing the thinness in my own voice. I travel. Some neighbors knew I was gone. Somebody used that. He took a long breath through his nose. We can't adjudicate HOA disputes, but this could be criminal if someone's entering your property without consent, even under color of authority. If you're okay with it, I'll write an incident report and note the video. You can file a complaint. Yes, I said. Please. We walked back. Kara stood with her arms folded tight. The couple hovered by their bags, the woman's eyes glassy. Ma'am, the older deputy said to Kara, do you have documentation authorizing overnight use of this address for any program? We have internal committee approvals, she said, crisp as a paper cut. Can we see them? Those records are confidential. He nodded slowly as if filing the refusal away in a mental drawer. All right. Here's what's going to happen tonight. These guests are going to gather their things. Sir, to me. You're within your rights to change your code and secure your property. I'll document what we saw. The couple looked at me, pleading and apologizing at once. Finish your call to your listing manager, I said. Tell them the owner says there is no listing, then leave the key fob on the porch. The man nodded quickly and fumbled for his phone. Kara's lips thinned to a line I remembered from every violation letter. The kind that said, we both know you're wrong. I just have to show you how. When the cruisers rolled away and the cul-de-sac went dark again, I stood under the porch light and stared at the violation notice that had been taped to my door while I was gone. Trashcan left visible beyond approved hours. The edges fluttered in the breeze like a small, ridiculous flag. I pulled it off and folded it into my pocket like evidence. Inside, I sat on the bench with the suitcase's ghost weight beside me and started making a list. Change the lock code, pull ring clips to a secure folder. Email the board requesting an immediate records inspection under state law. Text the two neighbors who always knew more than they wanted to. Sleep could wait. Leap. By mid-morning, the mountain air had swapped its bite for a brittle clarity that made everything feel too sharp. I'd slept 3 hours. The rest of the night had been a scavenger hunt with a flashlight. The smart lock's access log, the HOA's archived newsletters, my own email threads with Kara about bear-proof lids and wildflower height limits. At 9, I walked to the pool house where the lockbox hung under the eaves. Its paint was peeling. The metal had that rough, puckered look of something that's lived too many winters. The code had been set by the developer before the HOA formed. It was printed, unbelievably, in the move-in binder. For emergencies, board access only. I dialed the numbers. The door popped open on a plastic sleeve with 5 brass keys and a copy of the emergency entry guideline. 1 page, bullet points dripping with vagueness. I photographed everything, replaced it exactly, and shut the box. On the way back, my phone pinged. A reply from the board president landed in my inbox. It was short and polite and said nothing at all. Your request to inspect records is received. Please allow 10 business days. We take all allegations seriously. For now, please route all communication through the committee chair. The committee chair was Kara. Of course it was. A second ping, this one from an unknown Gmail address. The subject read, Aspen Wellness Weekends. The body was one line. Did you cancel our reservation? Beneath it, the thread unspooled. An auto-generated receipt, a calendar booking for Friday, Sunday 2 nights, and a confirmation signed AR. Community Services, K. Whitmore, Program Director. My chest went cold. I typed back, this is the owner. There is no program. Please request chargeback from your card issuer immediately. A text buzzed in from my neighbor across the street, the one who always noticed when the trash truck came early. Have you seen next door? Thread is on fire. I opened the app and found a post that had been up for an hour. Reminder, HOA board works hard to keep our neighborhood safe. Please respect inspections and community programming. Beware of misinformation. Comments stacked underneath, half supportive, half skeptical, and then a screenshot. Someone had posted the same landing page the couple showed me, with an arrow pointing to the footer. Aspen Ridge Community Services, LLC. The LLC was news. I clicked the Secretary of State's business lookup and typed the name. The filing was 3 months old. Registered Agent K. Whitmore. I pressed call. She picked up on the second ring. We don't conduct business on personal phones, she said without hello. You filed an LLC, I said. You took my property address and turned it into a product. I created a community program that offsets rising maintenance costs and offers vetted wellness opportunities to prospective buyers, she said. Exposure like this benefits everyone. You used a key and code you weren't authorized to use. There was a safety inspection. Inspections don't end with suitcases in my hallway. You don't like how we're improving the community, she said, voice going cool. Duly noted, the board will address your concerns. Not with you alone in the room, I said. I'm calling a special meeting. The bylaws allow it if 20% sign. She laughed, a short, sharp sound. Good luck with quorum. People like their doors, I said. They're gonna show up. For the next 4 hours, I walked the loop with a clipboard I hated and a script I didn't. Knock, smile, explain, listen. At first, doors opened just to the chain. Then a man 2 houses down said, My sister stayed in your place last month. I thought it was weird. It was community sponsored. But, Kara said it was part of a buyer outreach program. He signed. A woman with a toddler on her hip said, They issued me a trash violation the week I was in labor. She signed. The retired couple at the corner said, We thought those Friday cars were guests for the open house at Lot 9. They signed. By sundown, I had more than the required 20%. At 8, the board's group email blew up with special meeting request. Dispute resolution on record access and unauthorized occupancy. I CC'd the property management company and the HOA's attorney, copying the clips into a shared drive with a permissions list that would make a hacker yawn. At 9, the Wellness Weekend site went offline. A 404-page appeared with the cheery text, We're taking a breath. Back soon with new experiences. At 10, a new violation notice arrived in my inbox. Unapproved signage. Solicitation prohibited. An image attachment showed me on a porch with my clipboard. I laughed out loud, that strangled sound people make when disbelief gives up and lets humor take the wheel. The next morning, the board tried to cancel the meeting for procedural deficiencies. 10 minutes later, half the neighborhood posted screenshots of the bylaws paragraph that allowed owners to call one. Someone started a group chat. Someone else printed flyers. The property manager, usually invisible, sent a bland email about civility. The HOA attorney wrote to say the board would be present to listen, but not to litigate, which was legal for him and maddening for the rest of us. At 6 p.m., the community room filled with winter coats steaming off meltwater. Folding chairs scraped. The board sat at a table with name placards like 4th grade student council. Kara sat in the middle, hands folded, the picture of patience. I stood with the microphone that always squealed and said, I don't want to be here. I want to chop wood and let my dog run in circles and argue with nobody except the weather. But something happened in our neighborhood that requires daylight. I cued the first ring clip. On the portable projector, strangers wheeled suitcases through my door. I let the silence after the clip do half the speaking. Then I pulled up the smart lock log. Friday, 5:58 p.m. Unlocked by guest code 4. Friday, 6:01 p.m. Locked. Saturday, 8:12 a.m. Unlocked. A week earlier, a week before that, a pattern so clean it was insulting. Someone in the 4th row said, That's your door. Someone else said, My sister stayed there, softly, as if confessing a shared sin. I tapped the arrow. The Secretary of State filing appeared. Aspen Ridge Community Services, LLC. The registered agent line drew a murmur. The back of the room rustled like a stand of trees in a gust. I scrolled to the emails. The booking confirmations were careful, written in the kind of language that knows how to look good in a courtroom. Community hospitality program, prospective ownership experience, strict code of conduct. Then a small mistake, a Venmo. Screenshot from one guest, posted on a public feed with a caption that read, "Mountain Weekend, thanks Kara." The amount matched the experience fee on the confirmation. Kara leaned toward her mic. None of this proves misuse of HOA resources. I've devoted countless volunteer hours to making Aspen Ridge a better place. We piloted a program to introduce serious buyers to the community. The fees covered cleaning and security. A hand shot up. Where are the board votes approving this? It was the retired accountant from the corner lot, a man whose hobby was bylaws. I've read every set of minutes for 2 years. There's no motion, no resolution, no line item. If the program was legitimate, why hide it? Kara's smile was professional and thin. Not every operational detail makes the minutes. Board spending does, he said. The president shifted in his chair, eyes darting between Kara and the room like a referee who realizes too late the rules have changed. Let's not rush to judgment. This isn't judgment, I said, and kept my voice steady. This is evidence. People entered my home without my consent. They were told a story about a program that doesn't exist in our governing documents. Money changed hands under the HOA's initials. If you wanted to show off the neighborhood, you could have asked. You didn't. A woman in the front row, one of the Friday nighters, I recognized her from the dark porch video, raised her hand as if asking permission to admit something. We booked because my sister is looking to move up here, she said. It felt official. There was even a code of conduct. If I'd known it was someone's house, I'm sorry. It shouldn't be on you to guess, I said. A voice behind the board table, small but sharp, finally spoke. The treasurer, who had been quiet all evening, cleared his throat. Kara, he said, did you deposit any fees into an HOA account? Her silence lasted just long enough to be an answer all by itself. We were going to reconcile at quarter end, she said. In which account? He asked. In the program fund. We don't have a program fund, he said. People don't really gasp, not in real life, but the sound that went through the room was close. Okay, the board president said, palms up, trying to catch water with his hands. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to vote to suspend any such program pending a full review. We'll appoint an independent auditor to review records. And we'll restrict emergency key access to 2 officers with cosign requirements. Effective tonight. Add a motion to remove Miss Whitmore from her committee roles pending the review, the accountant said. You can't, Kara started. We can, the treasurer said softly, eyes on his copy of the bylaws. And we should. The vote went fast, hands a forest. When it was done, Kara didn't look at anyone. She stacked her papers and slid them into a tidy rectangle. She walked past me without turning her head. I watched the shape of her recede through the door's small window and felt the odd crash of relief and exhaustion that arrives when a long, thin thread finally breaks. The audit moved like all audits do, slow, methodical, boring until it wasn't. We learned the LLC had a separate bank account. We learned community emails had been forwarded to it. We learned that our HOA logo had been pasted onto receipts with the abandon of a kid cutting up a magazine. The sums weren't huge, weekend fees, cleaning charges, curation, but stacked together, they made a number with weight. The sheriff's office called me a week later to say the incident report had been forwarded to the county attorney for review. No promises, the deputy said. Criminal law isn't always great at catching HOA nonsense, but misrepresentation can be something, and the trespass is clearer. I appreciate it, I said. We changed the locks at the pool house. We installed a new lockbox that required 2 people to open it. The developer paid for it, sheepish about having left the old code in the binders like a spare key under a doormat. The board scheduled an election. The property manager, suddenly very helpful, hosted a records training about what counts and who gets to see it. It turned out the answer was more than you'd think, and the owners, respectively. In the middle of all that, an envelope arrived at my place with no return address. Inside was a single sheet, a printout of an email thread between Kara and the president from months back. It was talk about programming and revenue opportunities and keeping minutes tight. It was enough to make a story for anyone who wanted to write one. I didn't know who had sent it. I didn't need to. Secrets don't stay put in small places. The couple from my porch sent a handwritten note. It said, "We're sorry. We got our charge back. We should have asked more questions. We hope your place is peaceful again. One evening, I found the retired accountant standing at the end of his driveway with a thermos and 2 paper cups. He poured and handed one to me. "You did the hard part," he said. "You told the truth with receipts." "I just didn't want strangers in my kitchen," I said. "That too," he said, and we stood there, the light draining out of the day, watching a blue jay harass a squirrel like a tiny cop. When the election came, the room felt different. The kind of different that happens when people have seen behind a curtain and won't forget what the ropes look like. New faces took seats. The treasurer stayed. The president didn't. Kara didn't attend. After the ballots were counted, the new board opened the floor. I raised my hand and said, "We need a policy that says what emergency means. We need a log for key access with signatures and times. We need to make it simple enough that nobody has to become a detective to understand it." They nodded, and someone wrote it down. And I felt that small click of something like community forming. Not in the aspirational way brochures say it, but in the ordinary way it actually does. At a folding table, in a room that smells like gym varnish, with people who'd rather be home. Before I went back to my cabin, I took one slow lap around the cul-de-sac. The porches were quiet. Inside one house, a family ate dinner at a table with mismatched chairs. At another, a teenage boy practiced scales on a trumpet, stubborn and sincere. I could see my own porch light through the trees, a steady circle on the boards. On my steps, I paused and looked down at the ring of scratches where the suitcases had nicked the wood. A small thing, a minor scar, but mine. I unlocked the door with a code that only my phone knew. The entryway smelled like cedar and dust and the faint ghost of last summer's firewood. I set my keys in the dish and listened to the cabin settle around me. The silence was good. Not the brittle kind that means nobody's talking because they're afraid, but the soft, living kind that happens when a place recognizes you again. My phone buzzed. A new email from the board. Policy updates adopted. A PDF attached. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I stepped onto the porch and leaned against the rail. The sky had gone full black, the kind that clamps down hard in the mountains. Somewhere an owl called, and the echo of it lifted the hair on my arms, not because it was eerie, but because it was right. Behind me, on the small table by the door, the old violation notice lay folded and thick with pocket creases. Trash can left visible beyond approved hours. I smoothed it open, laughed, and then did the only thing that made sense. I pinned it to the corkboard by the kitchen and wrote across the top in big letters, "Keep your own keys." The next weekend, a car slowed by my drive and then moved on. No suitcases rolled up my steps. The porch light snapped on anyway, hopeful and automatic, sweeping the boards with a warm circle. I let it burn a while, then turned it off and closed the door. Support the channel, subscribe, leave a comment, and share the video.